We're going to continue with our world religions, world religion, and this is 101, and we're basically sharing with you. We've covered our lesson. We covered uh, Christianity as number one, and we covered Islam as number two, and then we covered Judaism, although in numbers it's not number three. We covered it as one of the religions that has had an impact on all these other religions. Um, we're going to take a look now at Buddhism, uh, Hinduism, and Jainism. Let's look at Buddhism. The meaning of the name Buddhism is a system taught by the Buddha. The Buddha. So we're going to take a look here and write the word the Buddha. B-U-D-D-A. The Buddha. Well, let's make that a little bit clearer for you. We'll just put it right here. B-U-D-D-H-A. The Buddha. You'll hear that a lot, particularly when you go toward northeastern India. This is your fourth largest religion in the world, number 4. And it occurred some years before Christ. In fact, when you take a look at when it happened, it was about 520 years BC, and that was before Christ. Its founder again was someone, and let's give his real name. We'll give it another pen here. His name was spelled Siddhartha, and the last name was Gautama. Pretty difficult word to pronounce. I'm probably messing it up for sure, but that was his name, and they called him Buddha for short. He was an Indian prince, actually. And when you take a look at the numbers, by the numbers, and again, we're talking about a hindrance. A hindrance meaning the number of people who are practicing or following this particular religion. And that number comes out to about 360 million. 360 million. Quite a bit. As I indicated, it's the fourth largest religion in the world. And the places where it's practiced, we're going to put them all down here. Places where it's practiced, mainly, we would say China, which is certainly a large country. China is practiced in Japan. It's practiced also in Korea. It's practiced in Southeast Asia. Some of us know that as Vietnam, or parts of Vietnam. China, Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. Those are the countries where it's mainly located. There are sacred texts for Buddhism. There are numerous what they call sutras. T-R-A-S, which amounts to sacred texts, and many of them are in a language called Pali, Pali, and of course the spiritual leader in the case of Christianity is the pastor, preacher, or bishop, or priest. In Judaism, it was a rabbi. In Islam, at the mosque, you have the leader of the mosque, and then we were talking about the leaders as far as the leader of the mosque in the in Islam. We were talking a little bit about in the sheikh or they practice Allah, and but let's go on with uh, Buddhism. Again, the monk is the person who handles it, and mainly, and they have meditation halls and temples where they practice. Um, the ultimate reality for Buddhism is nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. Human nature, self. There is no self or soul. Human existence is nothing more than a combination of five impermanent components. Um, the afterlife, they believe in rebirth or nirvana. Nirvana is seen simply as the cessation of suffering by some, and as a heavenly paradise for others. Let's look now at um, Hinduism. Hinduism. Let's skip over here to Hinduism. And again, from Persia. The word is Sanskrit. Hindu literally means river. River. Um, uh, and it's mainly was founded, and this was one of the much older than some of the other religions, about 1500 BC. 1500 BC. And Hinduism has a lot of adherents or followers, about 900 million, close to a billion followers. It's the third largest religion. Remember, we talked about Judaism being impactful, but not necessarily the 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 third. The third we know now as Hinduism. Remember, Christianity was the first, Islam was the second, Hinduism is the third, and then of course we said Buddhism was the fourth largest in the world. Now, Hinduism is practiced primarily in India, Um, it's also practiced in the U.S., and it's also practiced, or in the United Kingdom and the U.S., it's also practiced in the United Kingdom and other countries as well. The sacred texts, they have several. We'll talk about them. The Vedas, the Upanishads, Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita, the Gita. The original language is Sanskrit, and the spiritual leader is a guru, Guru, or sage, Sage. That's your spiritual leader. They worship in temples or home shrines, and they practice pantheism, which is many gods, or polytheism. Um, they believe that human nature is in bondage to ignorance and illusions, but we're able to escape and obtain to liberation through a cycle of reincarnation. We're going to get into a lot of that discussion. Uh, Life, the order of life, they live according to the Dharma. The Dharma. Let's put that word because we're going to see that when we start discussing Hinduism. Dharma, D H A And of course, we're gonna talk about that in a lot more detail. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about Jainism. Jainism. Uh, Jainism again down here. Jainism again 550 BC before Christ. Now, one thing should become apparent to many of you that a lot of these religions are a lot older than Christianity or even Judaism or Islam. These are your newer religions, even though they dominate as 1, 2, and impact 3 in terms of impact for Judaism. They are younger than a lot of these other religions who have been around a long time. Jainism is around. Let's get our arrow going here. Jainism, here's their symbol right here for Jainism. Right here, the symbol for Buddhism is a lotus flower right here. And the symbol for Islam looks like a swastika, actually, but it's turned differently from a swastika here. And let's draw our arrow where we want to focus on Jainism. About 4 million, a lot smaller than some of your other religions, primarily practice. There's actually 75,000 in the U.S. 75,000, 75K in the U.S. And there's some even in Britain, about 25,000. The main location is India, as we indicated earlier. This is for Jainism in India. And if you notice something else here, that a lot of these religions dominate in the country of India. India is a very religious country. The East has always practiced meditation, prayer, and they're focused on the spiritual life in these countries. The original language is Sanskrit. Again, the monk dominates in the house of worship. They worship in temples as well. Then they believe in polytheism and pantheism as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we go along. The purpose of life is to gain liberation from the cycle of rebirth. They live to cause no harm to any being, even animals. And they believe in repeated reincarnation until you're liberated. So those are the three that we've discussed. Buddhism being number 4. And it's the 4th largest. Hinduism, the 3rd largest with 900 million. Buddhism with 360 million. And then Jainism with really about 75,000 in the United States. But it's a very small number, about 4 million. When we get we're going to take a look at the rest of these living religions of the world in our next video.